this. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. We just had a fascinating discussion about laugh tracks, and I don't remember having a discussion like that on this program.
There's a first time for everything.
I guess there is. You never know what you're going to get with Passage to Profit, but tonight we do know what we're going to get because we have Katie Chonacas here, and she has just like been all over the place in media and movies and directing and poetry and Bitcoin. And so how we're going to pull all this together is anybody's guess. But welcome to the show, Katie. So happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. We'll just have to have multiple segments, right?
So no, it's really amazing that you can do all of these things. So how did you get started in your career?
Well, I mean, that's a big question. We could go so many different areas, but I guess, growing up Greek Orthodox Christian gave me my family roots, and everything starts with your roots. So my family immigrated from Europe, and then I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit. My parents grew up in Detroit, but then the riots were happening and they moved out of Detroit. And, I was grown up into a society where everyone has their circumstances, and I just felt like a bird in a cage having to break out. And I was an empath and an HSP, a highly sensitive person. And I didn't know the language of empath or HSP when I was a child, but I felt a lot like a baby screaming, and you just don't have the language, right? Until you hear a song, or it's like we all feel the same thing and we're connected. So I had these emotions and I felt things more than other people, and I would observe, and I was just an observer, and a great actor is a great observer. Same thing for an artist. So I would observe all these things, and I felt so much, and I didn't have the language for it. And so I knew I had to get out of where I wanted to live and make other people feel good. I wanted to make other people laugh.
So I just need to ask you a question. You were talking about how being an actor requires great observance. What are you looking at? What are the things that you're observing?
Not only am I observing, for example, blue suit, floral scarf, just the physicalities of how one is moving, how the nose is, if someone's listening, if they're tuned in, if they're shaking their head, yes, if they're looking away, if they're actually listening. Because being an actor, it's one thing is saying, and the other side, a lot of times when casting directors and directors are looking on the tapes, when the other person's lines come, they're like a deer in headlights, because there's no life going on, because they're thinking about what doesn't exist, the future. They're thinking about, their next lines. So they're not actually in the moment of being here right now. And also it's the subtle energies of the silence and the intelligence of the silence that's unspoken is what I really attune to, because I use my body intelligence, I feel, the most.
Wow. That's amazing. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot to be said for good pausing, right? And, because creating that silence helps create attention, and it allows people to catch up with you or get you. And so those are really magnificent points. So what was your first sort of professional role?
My first role was amazing. CSI New York with Gary Sinise, and he was great. And then the Greek actor who's on the show as well. They go to my church, actually, St. Sophia's. But it was really cool working with Gary Sinise, because I was on set working with him, and in between takes, because you do like the wides, the mediums, the close-ups, the reversals, and we're like face to face for like 14 hours, 6 hours, working a long time together. And he was just like, "You're a very soulful actor." And I just remembered him saying that. And I've had that nugget with me for, since 2005. So, since that, it's just remembering, because there's different kinds of actors, right? And he was just like, "You're a very soulful actor." So it really touched my heart. And I had, so that was pretty amazing working with him and the whole crew on CSI New York.
So Katie, there are so many things we can talk about, but you have been an artist, actor, stand-up comedian, producer, director, musician, voiceover artist, industry coach, spoken word poetry artist, podcaster, published author, NFT artist. What was your favorite thing to do?
I think my favorite thing out of everything, I love poetry. I love poetry. I love language. I like the sound, the vibration, the intentionality of our words, like what comes up for us, what we send to other human beings. You know, it's such an important responsibility, us as humans, of what we say, how we say it, and how it affects and make an impact on others. So that really moves me a lot. But of course, I have to say one other thing, which is painting, because I love all the different colors, and there's that whole language of being an artist and painting too.
So I want to put you on the spot a little bit. Could you recite a short poem of yours for our audience?
Oh, okay. They're pretty long, but let's see. Here's one I got, because I take poetry and I put into music, so it goes. Pure light's what I radiate. You know how I gravitate. Higher powers on collaborate. So we meditate, going nonstop, then repeat the mantra. I don't see the lower levels, all my homies on top. Yeah, higher forms going where the light is warm. What you fighting for? There's a fire that's inside us pure. Try igniting yours. You can be your own prophecy. Everything in harmony. This is our philosophy. Yeah. What?
That was totally
All right.
cool. So Kenya, I'm sure you've got something to say here.
Well, Katie's got bars, that's for sure.
Thank you.
So, what would you say has been your hardest scene to act out?
A scene that was really difficult, and it was weird because it wasn't a movie or a TV show. Samuel Bayer, he did The Cranberries, Nirvana, Team Spirit. He was like the biggest music video director, and he went on to feature films. But he directed me in Pink's Who Knew music video. And it's like, whoa, like insane. Like the way he directed me though, it was just like very specific and intricate of, because I was dealing with a boyfriend who was a heroin addict, and he loved me, but he just loved the drugs more. And I had to make the choice to leave him. And that was very, very it was very difficult to do in the scene and the character, when I was working on that project with Samuel Bayer. It was pretty difficult. But he gave a lot of range for me to, and we found it together, but it took a lot because it's Pink's story and it's based off a true story of Pink. So I wanted to be authentic to her, and get the beats right and the emotions right and everything to tell that story for another artist who I greatly admire.
Wow, it's to be true to somebody who's living, right, and in the public. That's a tough job, right? Because especially with Pink, because she's got so many different. It's got so much appeal. You were talking about being an NFT artist, and that's kind of like a new thing. I'm not sure our audience is really familiar with the whole NFT piece. And we were wondering if you could kind of explain that, and then how the NFT piece is working.
Okay, it's a lot to unpack, but we'll try to keep it very simple and basic. But I've been in the space since 2018 with NFTs. It was very, very cool. I was brought in early. I DJ, and so I was DJing these house parties in Hollywood Hills. I was DJing these dope parties downtown. All these blockchains were raising all these funds. People were flying in from everywhere. They were flying me to New York. I was DJing.
So blockchain is like this new technology out there.
Yeah. It's kind of like in the gold rush, people went to California to actually mine and dig for gold underground physical. And now we're in an evolved emotional state and process in life where people are mining digitally with your brains and with technology instead of physically mining. People are doing it through the blockchain, and it's that way.
And the blockchain is really a way of just like verifying the identity on a very detailed level of people or objects or currency or values. And it's going to become more and more prevalent, but it's still new in a lot of ways.
A lot of people don't know about it. I've been in the community for a while, so I hear it every single day. So I employ others to research, check out Gary V, like find out like all the NFT artists, like, they're all following me on Instagram. I'm following them. Just like get involved, like just Google NFTs, look at the conference, look at like my friend JR, Gabe Weiss, like look at the artists who are, making it happen, who are on the forefront. You can go to OpenSea, you can see who are on the front page, you can learn about it. And for me, I personally like Matic. It's a certain, it's environmentally friendly, MATIC. So there's different ones. So, I mean, there's so many of them. So the best thing to do is just get involved and learn about it, because it's already happening. So it's still very early for people to get involved, and artists want other artists to get involved. Like during the pandemic, I was on Clubhouse nonstop, and everyone's just helping one another, and people don't want to keep people out and not give them information. We want to give you information. We want to help you, because we can decentralize and, take our economy to new heights and embrace one another for what we really want, equality, health, prosperity, for a better lifestyle for not only us, but, for everyone, living here on the planet. Like dismantle the stuff that's not serving us, that's not good for us. So in short, I would just like to say, like, drachma in Greece, like the currency's drachma, it's obsolete. It went obsolete like 2003 or something. But they went into the EU, they used the euros. That's in my lifetime. We had the drachmas that went obsolete, right? So there are currencies in the franc, there's currencies that have gone obsolete while we're here. It's the same thing with like the dollar bill. Right. Us shifting to a new dimension of new currency. So the reason why people are boggling their heads around it is because we're so programmed and conditioned to know that's red. Oh, that must be red. How can I think about anything else but that heart being red because I see it as red? So it's deprogramming what we've been programmed like a computer and being open to people who are very educated, who've done the research, who know the technology.
What are NFTs for artists?
Sure. NFTs are non-fungible tokens. It's a way for an artist in any medium they are as artists, through a photo, music video, anything you can think of, anything can be art. You can put it on the blockchain, and it's really cool because there's programs out there where you have no gas fees. So instead of it being a cost overhead for you as a business person, the buyer actually pays those gas fees, and you just get the money in addition to the percent. And every time it sells and resells, you get a percent of that forever, for eternity, not just a one-off, which happens when you sell art. Sometimes you only get the initial commission, but every time it sells and resells, you get that commission. So it's really cool.
So it's sort of like there's a computer piece that follows the ownership of the art around, and every time that computer piece changes, the artist gets paid again. Is that kind of a simple way to say it?
Sure. Yeah. Technology, contracts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So can I ask a question about something a little bit different?
Of course.
So you have a podcast. I didn't want to ask you about your podcast called She's All Over the Place. So can you tell us a little bit what you talk about on your podcast?
Sure. My podcast, She's All Over the Place, is all about arts and business and entertainment with ethics, morals, and values. And we have 3 seasons up right now. And the 4th season is in January, and it's all about women empowerment and divine femininity, but not only divine femininity in quote unquote females, but divine femininity in all genders. So we're going to explore those kind of things and break down societal norms and stigmas.
That sounds great. And what are some of the, do you have some of the topics lined up? Can you give us a little bit more detail about that?
Oh, sure. I have an art advisor on. She's amazing. I have a doctor, Dr. Dittman on, who deals with prenatal specifically. And, I have a 15-year-old girl on, and I want to talk about, things about what she knows, and things that I wasn't told, and things we're not told, and things even as adults we're still not told, and breaking down and actually communicating certain things that we should know, so we can make better choices about intimacy and our boundaries with ourselves and for other people.
Well, that's great. You also have a book, A Lover's Fairy Tale. What do you talk about in that?
Sure. I have thousands of poems and I traveled the world and I was in a form of ecstasy and nirvana. I was celibate for 7 years and I was just really committed to the universe and God and myself. And I really wanted to explore why I was here as a human, this gift that was given to me before I could gift myself to another human being. So I went around the world and I was just in ecstasy and nirvana, looking at these waterfalls and, animals and culture and food and like language and these people in Bermuda and Dominican Republic and just all these wonderful places. And I was just writing about a lover's fairy tale of the universe, of life, and what nature has gifted us, and there's no price tag on that. And so I took 11 pieces and I put it into the poetry book.
Excellent. Kenya, do you have anything to say?
Oh, I love that you did that. Right. And I think it's the guidebook to like all young women and what they should do before they put themselves in any type of permanent situation.
Exactly. For sure. 1000%. What you just said, it's because when I was a little, being the observer, I said when I was younger, I saw all the girls, all the boys, all the things that had crying, and like some boys would be like, oh, you can't wear, your skirt needs to be down to your knee, or people would be like, oh, button your thing, and people would be sobbing and crying. It's like, I'm not going to be crying over anybody, and I'm not going to be telling me what to do. And I didn't want all the girls like, and I'm like, I didn't feed into any of that crap. I'm like, I don't want any of that. I want to be very clear and know thyself, right? Like get to know self and my purpose before, and become an oak tree before I can gift myself to someone else. I need to receive the gift, right? And we can do that at any age.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I was just saying, amen, sister.
Yay.
Yeah. And I think that, one thing Richard and I have always brought up, the show is kind of for innovation, that you're very innovative and entrepreneurs, but really some of the most important work you can do in your life is on yourself, right? And to really be successful, you really need to get some of these pieces of your psyche and yourself nailed down, right?
What you just said, the psyche, 1000%. It's so deep rooted in there. No matter like anything you say or I say, I could never, ever fully express in words what is really going on. But there's a transfer in energy in a place that we can only go to, like the deepest in the ocean, right? And it's pure bliss. Like I always say, like lean into the sorrow. Like when I cry, I love crying. It feels so good to cry. And I'm like, yo, cry. And some people are like, oh, you're crying too much, or you're crying. It's like, it just shows like where they are, and it shows that where they are, not who I am, because I'm like, I like to cry. It's okay.
Sure.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
empowering.
I mean, having real emotional experiences, I think, really enhances a person's life, and also finding time to reflect quietly and contemplate what's going on is also, for me personally, very important. Elizabeth and I just recently took a trip to Sedona, where in Arizona, it has some beautiful rock formations. It's very close to the Grand Canyon. And it was really spiritual to be there and to be around the nature and to see what has been created. It's just such a unique environment. And I remember spending time by a river and really just sort of just sitting and enjoying the sounds of the river. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was fall, and taking the time to enjoy those kinds of things is fundamental to being a person, I think. And to your point about finding yourself, our daughter is doing just that. She's going to be a traveling nurse, and she's traveling around, and
she's going to hike the Appalachian Trail by herself.
And she's going to hike the Appalachian Trail, and she's very independent. And I think that she's taking the time to find herself before getting involved in a relationship. So I think that's really good advice for men and for women, right? So.
Yeah. And also one other thing, it's like I was taught, I mean, I'm sure we're all taught things, but by certain individuals, I was taught, not to show those emotions. So I've been very good at putting a public persona up and being able to compartmentalize feelings and put them into the corner, which is great for like show business when you have to show up to a set for 200 and 300 people. I know how to stuff those away. And if you need to do it temporary, but you can't ignore it, it's good to like let those things come out. But I was taught at a very young age, like, not to show those emotions. So I think that's why it's maybe one of my purposes and callings, to be able to roar and be like, I'm gonna let it all out, and like, I'm gonna let everyone else know it's okay, let it out, like, let it out. But that moment of silence is so beautiful. I love Sedona, the vortexes. There's so many vortexes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They say Sedona is the spiritual playground for, like, when people go to Disneyland, it's for like the spiritual playground for adults.
Well, it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I saw faces everywhere in the rocks, like everywhere. It's really strange.
Wow.
That could have been the wine, but we won't. we don't need to take that
At
too much
sunrise,
further.
I was not drinking at sunrise.
Oh, we weren't. Oh. Anyway.
Anyway, with that note.
With that note, Katie, it's just been amazing to have you on the show, and you are such a high level thinker, and it's no wonder that you can handle so many different projects at one time. It doesn't surprise me one bit. You're a special talent, and I hope you'll stick around for a few more minutes so we can enjoy your company with our other presenters. In the meantime,
Definitely. Thank you.
we need to go to a commercial break. This is Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. We'll be right back after this.